Holy shit. All right. I just sat down after doing some work on some other projects and some editing and whatnot, and found that D&D Wizards had released a new update on the open game license, and I had to just sit down and go through it because holy shit, this is already a terrible situation, and they've already fumbled their initial response to the leak. Um, for context, um, they put this out. I need to make a note of this. They put this out first on the D&D Beyond Twitter, and then they put this out on the Wizards Twitter. Which, seriously, are, are you fucking kidding me? You can't even be bothered to put it on the proper company's Twitter account. What? But I need to cover what's been going on with this since it happened about a week ago, or actually about 3 days ago as of when I'm recording this. It'll probably go up later today once it clears uploading. Basically, Wizards put out, let me see if, Wizards put out a new OGL to creators, journalists, and some other people, and it got leaked. And it basically said if you make money off our game, we might be required to we're requiring you to pay our company royalties for using our game. I'm still fucking laughing about it because it's so goddamn stupid. Holy shit. Um we reserve the right to change the OGL, this open game license, at any time if we feel like it. And basically restricting people from utilizing D&D, which is supposed to be an open source game that anyone can use. So this was sent, by the way, to the journalist who leaked it said that she got it with a contract to be signed agreeing to terms of the OGL. I don't know who this journalist is. Let me see if I can. Here it is, Linda Codega, who is a journalist covering this shit up in this corner here. So, okay. I'm just going to go through it real quick because, holy shit. I can't believe this. I'm not even going to go through it. I'm so pissed off. So, again, we own your content. If you make enough money off of our game, you have to pay us, and we can change the terms of this OGL at any time. Here's Wizards' counter statement on D&D Beyond. Not even their own website. They posted this to D&D Beyond, the D&D Beyond Twitter, and then finally it got to the Wizards D&D Twitter account. When we initially conceived of revising the OGL, quote, by the way, when we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with three major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Unquote. Okay, so with this first sentence, we already have a huge problem. Because it's as simple, with this, it's as simple as putting out a statement that you don't associate with this. You don't agree with this, and it does not represent your brand. Like, because the thing about D&D is independent creators are always going to use it to create their own adventures, their own lore, their own universe. And some of them are always going to be bad actors. That's the problem with having a D&D campaign. So saying this, you just can't control that. And for every Critical Role knockoff that includes copious amounts of really horrendous subject matter, there are 10 that aren't live streamed, that aren't put on YouTube, that aren't even like publicly available. And you just can't control that. You just cannot control what that's going to be. It's impossible to act on that. The best you can do is damage control when things like that become large. Also, bingo card, market, hateful and discriminatory. Of course, we don't want to be associated with, racial stereotypes or whatever. Of course, because it's a bad look for the company. Jesus fuck. All right. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D and Web3 blockchain games and NFTs by making it clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. This is a weird, by the way, that was quote unquote, this is a weird statement to include. Because, I'm gonna be honest, you own the copyright to your own content. So if people are trying to use it to make blockchain things or NFTs, you can DMCA those if it's content that's been created outside of your purview by, say, an artist draws a picture, draws a portrait of their tiefling warlock or whatever. That's that artist's intellectual property. And if it's being used as NFTs, you can't make a claim on that, Wizards, but at the same time, neither can the people making the NFT about it unless they literally made the damn thing. So this is just a terrible statement as well. Because if it's stuff that you put out that people are trying to claim as their own, DMCA it. It's that easy. And third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL for the content creator, the homebrewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, is for the content creator, homebrewer, aspiring designer, players, and community. Not major corporations use it for their own commercial and promotional purpose. To me, this part of the statement reads, we don't like that Critical Role makes money off of this, which has been a huge point of contention in the reactions to this. That Critical Role has been making money off of this for years, off of D&D for years. Why? Why is this a problem? Like, to me, it's as simple as reaching out and saying, hey, you guys make a lot of money. Can we have a cut of that pie, please? And negotiating. It's not, because we own the game, we own the rights to Critical Role. That's not at all true. Or any other major non-affiliated D&D product. Like, I've put on my channel a few things about, or mentioned a few things about Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, which is a D&D based idle clicker game that is branded and branded by Codename Entertainment, created and licensed by Wizards and D&D proper to be played. But the thing is, Codename is on good terms with Wizards. They're not on good terms with the community either, because that game has been horrendously bad lately. It's just fundamentally a stupid process. Like, you're just going to impose your will upon companies without even asking if that's something that they're willing to agree to or whatever. Because you say later on in this statement, or you even say it here, the community, Critical Role, and other shows like it are part of your community, whether or not you want to accept it. Like, it just boggles my mind that they thought that these are the three most important things that people care about. I'm just going to say right now, one, none of these things were part of the backlash. None of this was part of the backlash. The backlash has to do with claiming you own content created as an offshoot of your game, which you don't. Fair use allows for transformative work, which all homebrew content is, because it's based on your concepts, but it is not something that you created, Wizards. And also, the open games license allowed you, the new proposed open game license is subject to sudden and unexpected rebranding without warning. It says you can change the terms of it when you want, which is so scummy and so sketchy. And I can't believe you fumbled the two biggest arguments why this new proposed OGL is terrible. All right, let's get back to the statement, because I'm just getting peeved about things that have already been talked about by creators who are more articulate than I am. So, new paragraph. Quote, driving these goals were two simple principles. One, our job to be good stewards of the game, and two, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. Both of those are fucking lies. Your job is to be good stewards of the game. Yeah, and you've absolutely fumbled it by restricting who's allowed to use the game in any sort of context. Because I don't want to lose my license to something that I made within your game. And I know companies that make money off of things that they've created within the context of your game. I just talked about this. You're not being good stewards of the game. You're imposing your will upon players of said game. And the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans? Are you fucking kidding me? Of course it does. But nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. Again, I refer back to commentary I've heard about this. Within the same email, you have, within the email where the initial OGL revision was included, you included a contract that people have to sign regarding the new OGL. And it's also been alleged that there was a shareholder meeting at the end of last year where it was brought up that you're not capturing enough of your own market share with access to this game, which you've now tried to become predatory upon. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. I just do not believe you. You're trying to pull on goodwill that fundamentally does not exist in the community right now. Quote, that was why our early drafts of the new OGL include the provisions they did. That draft language was, again, we keep hearing this word draft, and we're going to hear it a lot more, I'm sure, throughout this statement. I've read it once, and I don't remember most of it. I just sat down to make this thing. Okay. Quote, that was why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. That draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. Unquote. Again, why was there a contract included in the email that was sent out with these? Answer that question. Quote, in addition to language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. It was never our intent, there we go, to impact the vast majority of the community, unquote. I'm fairly certain that the new OGL, the proposed OGL, does not include any specific language about discriminatory or hateful conduct. Let me see if I can find it, because I feel like if I'm going off... Okay, based on my research here just now, that's not the case. There's no language about discriminatory or hateful conduct, quote. It does clarify what types of product the new OGL covers, because the previous one covered literally didn't restrict you at all. The new OGL basically says you're only allowed to make new content in printed or reference documents. That's it. You can't use virtual tabletops. You can't use minifigs. Um, computer games, novels, apps, graphic novels, music, songs, dances, and pantomimes. You you did clarify that, which let's just go ahead and continue on this article. You may engage in these activities only to the extent allowed under Wizards of the Coast fan content policy or separately agreed between you and us. Are you serious? I'm only allowed to use virtual tabletops if Wizards allows it. I'm only allowed to use Roll20 if Wizards allows it. Fuck that. Fuck that. Are you kidding me? You're basically saying I'm only allowed to play the game in person with my friends or on Discord with my own dice. I can't use virtual tabletops. I can't use apps that are designed to help me clarify and condense character knowledge so I don't have to lug around a fucking novel with me every time I go to play the game of my own notes. Unbelievable. Okay. Quote, however, it's clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. That's fucking cute. It has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. So here's what we are doing. Okay, not true. Not true. Like, this is okay. So, by word of law, hateful and discriminatory products can be revoked if proven that they are hateful and discriminatory because that violates the First Amendment. Hateful and discriminatory language is covered under First Amendment rights, I believe. This using D&D related content created by Wizards in these things? No. That's illegal. Anything that you don't own, people can turn into NFTs. If somebody creates art that they want to turn into an NFT that is art of a character from D&D that they created, they're allowed to. That's what fair use is. Using Wizards content or products as NFTs, that's, or blockchain or whatever, that they can deal with. You're not allowed to touch anything else. And third, to ensure the OGL's for everyone, that's what the original OGL did. That's what the original OGL did. You didn't need to change it. This is so blatantly disregarding the absolutely obvious corporate greed on display in the new OGL, the new proposed OGL. It completely bypasses that. It's just, we wanted to make sure you guys could play it. Well, we could! Until you guys started poking where you didn't need to be poking. Unfucking believable. They just absolutely fumbled all 3 of their major points because they can already do stuff about 2 of the 3, and the 3rd was already covered. Quote, the next OGL will contain the provisions that allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplay, VTT uses, I'll have to look up what that means, etc., will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content that already released under 1.0a will also remain unaffected. Okay, unquote. There's 2 things wrong here. Cultivate the inclusive environment. Using the word cultivate gives me 2 immediate reactions. Number 1, it was already being cultivated by itself. Its own environment was cultivating more members of the community. They were bringing new people in to try playing D&D in an amazing system. Second, the word cultivate So for context, cultivate means prepare and use for crops or gardening, try to acquire or develop. You've already cultivated a community. You've already cultivated an environment. You don't need to continue doing it. It's self-sustaining at this point. Let's look up what VTT means. Oh, virtual tabletops. That makes sense. Okay. So, virtual tabletop uses. Got it. Okay, so this part of the statement is actually better than I think some people are making it out to be. So, educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplay. So, if you live stream your D&D sessions, you're fine. It will remain unaffected by any OGL update. By any. So you can keep live streaming your games. That's a fair point, and I'm less mad about that now. Content that is already released under 1.0a will also remain unaffected. Already released. However, future content might not be unaffected. Again, no, that's fair use. That's fucking fair use. You can't monetize somebody else's creation, even if it's within your game universe. Like I thought of the analogy while I was taking a shower this morning before this happened, before I sat down to record this. It's like creators of a Gibson or Fender, creators of guitars and other music equipment, basically saying, starting now, any rock, metal, or other type of music that uses and credits our brand's guitar lines or any other product lines that we create, we own part of that. No, you don't. You own the guitar that was used. You don't own what was created using the instrument. It's the same thing here. You don't own what was created using your system. You own the system. You don't own the mechanics of the system that can be expanded upon. Okay. Quote, what it will not contain is any royalty structure. Okay. Good. By the way, unquote. Good. This is something that they absolutely should not have included. Having royalties is a terrible idea, and it diminishes anybody wanting to create new viewers, like YouTubers or Twitch streamers who want to play it online and get their viewers involved in the game. People who made the original proposed OGL specifically said that there were tiers. Let's see if they're in this. Yeah, so revenue tiers. There's 3 tiers, and if you've generated more than a certain amount in total income, you had we may reach out to you for a more custom licensing agreement. Yeah, you owe money to Wizards. That's what the royalty structure, revenue structure was. Getting rid of that is a great idea. You can't just broadly apply that. You have to reach out. And again, like I said earlier, to Critical Role, to other streamed or YouTube channels or series, and you have to tell them or ask them, hey, we like what you're doing. We'd like to officially partner with you. Imposing your will is not acceptable. Quote, it will not also, my gosh, it also will not include the license back provision that some people were afraid of, or phrase was a means for us to steal work. This is a good statement. I am totally okay with this. Good. You do not get to do that. That thought never crossed our minds. Seriously? You're a huge company, Wizards. You own the biggest card game in the world and the biggest tabletop RPG in the world, and you never thought that certain provisions as worded, allowed... You didn't think of that. You didn't think of that? None of your lawyers thought of that. No. There's no fucking way that not a single person didn't raise their hand and say, I think somebody might be upset about this if we try to impose this on people. No. No. That is a false statement. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. Correct. And that's not an open games license thing. That's fair use law in America, where Wizards is based. We won't. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. The license's back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. Okay, that's a fine statement, but you need to clarify that. You can't just put a statement in basically saying that you own the rights to certain mechanics or whatever it was. I don't even think anyone is actually that upset about this. It's the provision that you can change the revenue and that you can change it anytime still. As we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward with partnerships in film, television, and digital games, that risk is simply too great to ignore. I mean, you're trying to protect yourselves from lawsuits. That I can understand. But that's the problem, is that there's always going to be coincidental similarity, and that's been the problem in the music industry for the last decade or so, that there's always a new allegation that some new pop hit stole from an artist from 30, 40, 50, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. There are no new ideas, and there's always going to be the chance that things look similar on paper. It's inevitable. You're not going to be able to protect yourself from all of that. And an attempt at that, while an attempt, is not going to come across particularly well. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting that we have the rights to the content that you create. Correct. Your ideas and imagination are what makes the game special, and that belongs to you. Correct. A couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we want to make sure we get it right, but it is coming. Then how the hell did Paizo get Pathfinder 2.0's... I think they call it the OGC in that system, but how did they get one out before you even release this statement? You can't... You're not putting it out because you want to include a new fucking line. You want to put in a new fucking line that allows some amount of scuzziness. It's coming, and you're still not going to fucking like it, community. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won and so did we. Nobody's winning in this. Nobody's winning. The community's pissed off at you. You're losing market share value. You're losing the trust of your community. We're losing access. We're limiting our access to your system because you refuse to be transparent and honest with us that you want to capture the market share that's been growing and ballooning since 2015. Nobody's winning here. Everyone's pissed off and salty and irritable, and nobody's winning. Everyone's upset and everyone's losing. Our plan was always... Oh, it's italicized, so you know they're honest. You know they're being... whatever. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before we any update to the OGL. Then reach out to the whole community. Don't just send it to content creators and journalists. Put out a version of it to the community that doesn't have to get leaked by somebody who got it. Ask the community. Don't just send it to the biggest names in the community. Yeah, sure, you're always going to get the arguments of people who are going to hate everything because it's new and that inherently makes it bad. But you can't take the biggest voices in your community and have them be the ones who agree to it. 1% of the community does not reflect the opinion of the entire community. The drafts you've seen were attempting to do just that. No, they fucking weren't. If they were, they wouldn't have been sent with contracts attached. We want to always delight fans and create experiences together that everyone loves. We realize we did not do that this time, and we are sorry for that. You're right. You created an experience together that most of the community fucking hates. Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and which did not, which we ultimately got from you. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that. If it was, you would have put it to the whole community, not a section of it. Any change this major could only have been done well if we were willing to take that feedback, no matter how it was provided, so we are. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. Except you didn't answer two of the biggest problems, which I'll get to in a second. Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles. Finally, we'd appreciate the chance to make this right. We love D&D's devoted players and the creators who take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down. You already have let us down. So no, shut the fuck up. You already let us down. So, again, two biggest points that people have are the back licensing of content, which they attempted to address, but I do not fucking believe them, because content already released under 1.0a will remain unaffected. Already released. So, regardless, any new content, unless you specifically say in your new OGL proposal that you have to put out to the entire community, your new OGL has to say that content that is created by the community is owned by the creators in the community. This is a terrible... God damn it. This is a terrible line. Just absolutely terrible, and it undermines 90% of what you're trying to say here. Point number 2, you didn't address the biggest problem, which is the potential for revision. You didn't address the biggest fucking problem. The biggest complaint that most people have. You cannot include a clause that says this is subject to sudden unexpected change at any time when we determine that it's needed. You can't do that. Oh my God. I don't know if I'm going to cover a future release of this new OGL. I don't know if I'm going to get this upset about it, but here's my advice to Wizards from a small creative channel that really doesn't have a whole lot of traction. You can't, first of all, you can't license creations outside of the rulebooks that you publish and you collaborate with or you own. You can't own people's art. You can't own tabletops that utilize your system. You can't. I seriously doubt that is something that they can mitigate. I can accept them wanting to protect their IP from flagrant misuse for discriminatory or cyber currency purposes, however you want to phrase either of those things. This whole phrase up here about discriminatory products and blockchain and NFT shit. I can accept that is a thing that you don't want to have happen. I can accept that. But you cannot restrict you can't restrict other creations. You can't. It's fundamentally against artist copyright laws. It's fundamentally and morally in this very, very dark gray area that I'm pretty certain morally you shouldn't do it, and legally I'm not sure you can do it. And I'm not a legal expert, and I am not a journalist, but this is something that I love. I love D&D. I've played it my entire life. It's what got me into RPGs. I love this game, and I really, really do not want to see it go down in flames like this. But that's recommendation number 1. Recommendation number 2, don't include a proxy that allows you to change the agreement when you feel like it. You can't do that. That is rife for abuse. You already own the ability to change the OGL at whim. You don't need at will. You don't need to include that. But what you do need to do with a community that is this big, this devoted, and this passionate is you can talk to them. Get on the Reddit. Get on Twitter. Get on the not Twitter, the not Musk site alternatives. Get on all the social medias. Reach out to as many fans on as many platforms as you can about changes to the OGL that you might propose going forward. Because fundamentally, you cannot stop people. You cannot stop everything that is going to come out that violates your principles. And you can't just change things on a whim without involving your community, because you live and die on your community's goodwill and what the community thinks of you, wizards. I'm not subscribed to D&D Beyond, and I have not been. Or I have never been, I don't think. I'm not going to subscribe, and I would unsubscribe if I could, because that is how they are tracking the response to this, as well as hopefully looking at some of the online forums. But your new OGL needs to be written fast. It needs to be written way better than the proposed one was. It needs to be broadcast to the entire community. And it cannot be this restrictive. You cannot do this same shit again. You want to capture a bigger market share? I'm sure you can figure it out. You're a big company with a lot of resources. I'm sure you can figure out an alternative that does not involve you literally stealing things from people, whether or not you intend it to. All right. This video has gone on long enough. I didn't even intend to make this. I didn't even intend to upload today. There'll be a new episode. There'll be a new upload tomorrow on the channel here. But I just needed to go over this because holy hell, I can't believe how terrible this statement is. It's getting ratioed on Twitter already. So, and I needed to cover it just to get some of my thoughts off my chest. So, all right. I'm going to go edit this and get it uploaded. Try to enjoy the rest of my day. But before I do, I want to remind everyone that we're all just trying to get through this crazy world one day at a time. So remember to be excellent to each other. And I will see you in the next video. Adios.